Let's try to find some interesting investing opportunities. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Then do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So I'm trying out a bit of a different method now with these videos. So what I think I would do is to just invest along with you. So yeah, testing out a bit of a new method. I think that initially I will focus on these in the boost watch list because these are ETFs that have like leveraged ETFs that you can trade around. Getting into shorting and stuff like that, it's a bit more esoteric, but let's just there's a lot of opportunities here first, so let's start. So um, let's go to natural resources, see whether there are some interesting opportunities. The key thing is, natural gas. Nat gas, okay, let me do it like this. I think it is really interesting. We are very low on it. This is the nat gas futures. Going way back, this is really low. It does have this time cycle pattern. If you look here at some of the previous time cycles, duration has differed. We might still actually be part of a declining phase, and that's a bit of an issue. However, we are very, very low. Very low indeed. Zooming in here on the dailies, there is the potential issue here with this blue 100-day moving average. So let's look a bit here at the seasonality. The seasonality here is pretty promising. Looking here to the left, I think we have a candidate here. I think that nat gas is relatively interesting. So let's go here, natural resource, and we go to natural gas, like that. Okay, so what is the key thing? Let's say horizontal support, but 100 DMA resistance. So we do have a bit of a mixed bag here. We are at support, but we do also have that resistance level. But we are really low. We are really low. I think I will give the bulls a 4 on this one. Pretty interesting. So let's now go into the seasonality in a bit more detail. So to the left here in red, you see the average over the last 10 years, in blue the last 7 years, in green the last 5 years. The seasonality is pretty strong into mid-ish July. Then it really falls off. Looking at the table view. So far we do have an 8% gain for June. That is very strong though. So in some way it's a bit later to the party now, but given how historically low we are, then we are not that late. Looking at July last year, it was a really strong year, 40%, 7% before that, then 9-ish%. So July has sort of shifted potentially a bit here when it comes to seasonality. August, a very green month. So the seasonality here is pretty interesting. So yeah, going here to the seasonality, I think this is a 6. This is a 6 to the bulls. It's pretty interesting. When it comes to the fundamentals, you could make a strong case that nat gas is very undervalued. Then again, there's a lot of reasons, right, why nat gas is so low. So we have to be a bit careful, for sure. Then again, we are really low. I think I will give the bulls a 5 on this one. Many would even say it's a 9, but I think that's we have it like whether something is undervalued in the fundamental sense is also a function of whether other investors will agree. So it doesn't really help us if it really is undervalued if we don't have like a lineup of investors ready to come in and actually take that low value into practice like they need. Yeah. So let's now look at the correlations between nat gas and some key products. Let's use the S&P. We also have the UNG here. That is the nat gas ETF. It is usable. However, a lot of these commodity ETFs, they have a tracking issues. So here is the ETF database watch list. Well, you have some leveraged products basically. You have Boyle if you are bullish. You have Cold if you are bearish. I think that we could make a stronger bullish case in this case. So let's go with Boyle. So we go here and we want to look at the correlation with Boyle, to see whether it is tradable or not. Let's actually quickly here look at Boyle. I want to look at something. Let's do it like this. Obviously, this is not ideal for longer term holding. So I wanted to look at the accumulation distribution here. This one, it shows us whether there's an inflow or outflow of money. We do have some higher highs and higher lows here, which corroborates what we see in the ETF. So there's not a negative divergence. Here's the bearish one. Yeah, it seems to mirror. Yeah, there's no divergence here either. I just wanted to see whether there were divergences or not. So if as an example there was like bullish divergence, like with Boyle, that would show us that there's a strong inflow of money that is still not reflected in the futures. That could be a very interesting bullish sign, but we didn't really get it in this case. It was just a clean mirroring. Anyway, so here are the correlations between NatGas and S&P 500 long term, 27%, not much. 97% with UNG, which is the ETF, which is really good. That's very tradable correlation. But if you go down here in like this entire period from June of 21 all the way into May of 2022, the year, there was very mediocre correlation between the futures and the ETF, meaning you couldn't really use the UNG to trade NatGas, at least like longer term. Currently, the correlation is very strong though, so that's interesting. So maybe it works better now, but we see here that the correlation has really been volatile over time. But it's something to maybe consider there given the current strong correlation. With Boyle, it's 86%, so there are these divergences between the futures and, well, the commodity itself and these leveraged alternatives. Daily data points, minus 56% with S&P 500. Almost perfect correlation with both the UNG and the Boyle, so short term they work really well. That's pretty interesting. So let's actually compare NatGas with CL, which is the crude oil futures, like that. Weeklies. So we are emerging from a very low level on RSI. We usually are higher, so there's like that could potentially be bullish. We are very low also in here on the chart, in blue on the bottom. So we are just very, very low on NatGas. You could argue it's undervalued. And let's quickly look here at the seasonality. Very favorable seasonality for NatGas all the way here actually into 13th of September. That's a long potential period of outperformance here from NatGas. June is not necessarily a bullish month though, where NatGas outperforms crude oil, but July, August, very green. So let's also compare here NatGas against I think I know the ticker. Is it ICLN? Yes, Global Clean Energy. One of the key alternatives. Here again, you see that back here in February of this year, NatGas got really oversold on the weekly data points versus the clean energy ETF. So it really builds into this notion that NatGas could really just be undervalued. On the dailies, yeah, the same thing. Let's look at the seasonality. there's a favorable period leading up until July, midish July, then a bit of a consolidation. But then you see here from August all the way here up until October, usually is a protracted, consistent period of nat gas outperforming global like clean energy. Now let's also quickly here compare it against let's URA. Yes, I know way too many tickers. I have like a huge part of my brain completely dedicated to tickers. Okay, here again, you could argue historically undervalued. This is really low. Oh, the seasonality is very interesting here for nat gas. So when it comes to relative performance, it really gets pretty interesting here. I think I will give the Bulls. What do I give them? I think I give them a 7, a decent 7 here. Pretty good numbers here. Why don't we get the calculation? Yeah, I think I see what I've done. I've just eliminated it. Let me just see whether yes, it's the correct calculation. So we end up with 5.5 here in favor of the Bulls. So we don't have a clean horizontal support. We have like long-term investor horizontal support. So, and this is nat gas. Okay, this is a commodity. It's not like one company in the nat gas industry that could potentially go bankrupt. Nat gas is not going to file for bankruptcy. So we could make an even better fundamental case when talking about commodities that are really low. We do have that 100 daily moving average resistance. Not a huge fan of that, but the strong seasonality, fundamentals, and relative performance data, which is also tied to seasonality, very interesting for nat gas. So yeah, I just think I will be bullish on nat gas. You could use the UNG. You also have the Boyle ETF, which is more leveraged. You could, of course, get into the futures market if you so desire. It's a different animal altogether. You don't um, like you need to understand how leverage works if you're going to trade futures. There are, of course, stocks that are very tied to the nat gas price. In that case, do a statistical analysis to see whether there is a strong correlation between the stock and the natural gas price. But yeah, this is just way too low, way too interesting. So of course, as always, you want to have some kind of stop level in place, because if we do see a further pullback, then it could be an even better long-term opportunity. But yeah, whatever you do, of course, you do want to let the trend be your friend and be market neutral. And go to diamondarm.com for more intel.